At 2:07 p.m., a police officer walks into an empty house, but everything, absolutely everything, indicates that no one has left. August 13, 2018, Frederick, Colorado. A new house, a quiet neighborhood, nothing unusual. Yet Shanann Watts, 34 years old and pregnant, hasn't responded since the morning. She was supposed to go to a medical appointment. She never went. At 1:40 p.m., her best friend calls the police. At 2:07 p.m., Officer Coonrod enters the house. Shanann's car is in the garage. Her phone is on the couch. Her medication is in the kitchen. The beds are made. The children's toys are neatly arranged. But Shanann is nowhere to be found. Her two daughters are missing as well, and there is no sign of anyone leaving. Chris Watts arrives a few minutes later. He says he doesn't know where they are. He speaks calmly. He breathes calmly. He repeats the same sentences. The officers observe him. They notice one detail. He never asks, "Are they okay?" He only says, "I want them to come back." Why this distance? Why this lack of emotion? Why such precise answers? To understand, we have to go back to 2010. Chris and Shanann meet online. She works in marketing. He works in the oil industry. They marry in 2012. Two daughters are born. On social media, Shanann shows a perfect family. Videos, birthdays, trips. But in 2018, something changes. Shanann travels a lot for work. Chris becomes distant. He replies less. He smiles less. He spends more time on his phone. And Shanann sends worrying messages. "You're not the same anymore. Are you hiding something from me?" The weeks before the disappearance show a shift. Chris starts working out early in the morning. He watches his diet. He buys new clothes. He sends photos of himself to someone. He searches for restaurants, hotels, trips for two people. Investigators will later discover that he was having a relationship with a coworker, Nicole Kessinger, a relationship he hid from everyone. Back to August 13, the police inspect the house. Nothing indicates a voluntary departure. No suitcase, no missing clothes, no messages, no bank activity. A neighbor shows the officers footage from her camera. At 5:27 a.m., Chris is loading something into his truck. Several trips, several minutes. The neighbor says, "He's not acting like he usually does." The investigators note this. First red flag. Chris agrees to talk. He says Shanann went to a friend's house. The friend denies it. He says they had a difficult conversation. He gives no details. He says he doesn't know where the girls are, but he doesn't look for them. Detectives sense an inconsistency. They decide to dig deeper. On August 14th, Chris gives multiple interviews. He talks a lot. He repeats the same sentences. He checks his phone every 30 seconds. He avoids direct questions. Why so much nervousness? Why so much control? Why so many contradictions? Investigators begin to consider another possibility. What if Chris is hiding something? On August 15th, Chris agrees to take a polygraph test. The agent tells him, "No one passes this test while lying." The test begins. The questions are simple, the answers too, but the results come back. Complete failure. Detectives confront him. Chris changes his story. He says Shanann had hurt the girls and that he reacted. Investigators know this version doesn't match any evidence, but they let him talk. They want him to dig himself deeper, and he does. A few hours later, in front of his father, Chris confesses. He killed Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. He explains what happened without going into detail. He says he transported the bodies in his truck. Investigators immediately go to an oil site belonging to his company. There they find the bodies. Official reports will confirm the victims' identities. The investigation then reveals a precise timeline, deleted messages, Google searches about starting a new life, unusual spending, photos sent to his mistress, and above all, increasingly detached behavior in the weeks before the tragedy. Agents conclude that Chris was preparing a double life, a life without his family. On November 6, 2018, Chris Watts pleads guilty. He is sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Months later, a surprising detail emerges from the interrogations. The day before the tragedy, Chris had searched on his phone for a phrase that still puzzles investigators. A simple but revealing question: how to know if someone is living a double life?